Friends, I'm happy that there is some amount of intellectual debate going on in the comment space about my recent remarks that Lodha is a monopoly and that it is, the government seems to be conspiring to hand over a large chunk of the city or city's development activity to Lodha. So, what I like is that some people are addressing this in an intellectual way and are writing comments where the whole thing is being reasoned out. Some people say, why should you think that just because a business is big, it is bad? It may go into hectares or kilometers or even the whole country. So what is wrong? This is one comment. There are some others who are talking about with statistics and saying that Ambani is much bigger than Lodha and the turnover is much bigger and so on and so forth. Fair point. I have also received some criticism today about the way I talk. मैं गाली गलोच करता हूँ. I use the F word a lot, stuff like that. I take that as fair criticism. I can understand that my use of the F word can offend some people with delicate sensibilities. They may not like to talk that way, and they may not like being around people who talk that way. And it is not generally associated with being an intellectual, and I get that. A lot of people don't generally associate the quality of talking like that with a gentleman, and they would like to see me as a gentleman. I understand the fair criticism, and I am willing to, let me say, I give you some credit for it, and I understand where you're coming from. That said, I have a way of expressing things, and sometimes profanity helps me to express things in a forceful way. I mean, what are you doing is one way of putting it, but when you say what the F are you doing, it puts it much more clearly, and there is a certain amount of emotion that comes with the use of the F word. So I'm just going to stay with what I do. Sorry guys, I am sorry for offending your tender sensibilities, but I am who I am. I like to be the way I am. Now let us talk about the Palava and that huge complex of projects. Someone rightly pointed out that Casario is a different project and Palava is a different project and so on. Admittedly, they are different projects, they are different land parcels, but there is a very large number of land parcels in that area which have been acquired by creeping acquisition, and they are kind of melting together. A lot of farmland, agricultural land, has been acquired by Lodha, and as I said earlier, it is a lot. It is a huge swath of land which has been acquired in the last 10-15 years, arguably not by very honest means, but that is subject to so many civil litigations which are in progress. But despite the litigations, the state has been helping Lodha to take physical possession of those land parcels by sending in the police. So without a court order, how does the police come in on the side of Lodha and enable him to take physical possession of the land and put barbed wire fencing, etc. And by the way, I would like to point out that the kind of wire fencing that is being done is just not civilized. It is not normal barbed wire. It is concertina wire fencing. It is the kind of wire that if an animal gets into, it will probably die before being rescued unless it is promptly rescued. So if a cow or a dog or something gets entangled in that bunch of concertina wires, it is lost. Okay, I have a dog and a bunch of cats, and I can imagine what my situation would be if one of my pets got entangled in that. For that matter, kids are curious, kids like to try out new things. Some kid may on a dare try to cross that concertina wire fencing and can get very, very, very severely lacerated and probably have scars for it throughout his life. So I definitely question the kind of fencing that is being done in that region by Lodha. The fencing is not civilized. It is definitely not civilized, and it is not suitable for civil society, for dealing with civil society. And I would like to make that point out loud and clear. Now, coming back to the large amount of land acquisition that has happened, there are people who say that farmers are dishonest. Those guys want more. It reminds me of a novel by Charles Dickens, where Oliver Twist is an orphan, and this kid in the orphanage keeps asking for more food, and the orphanage master gets very angry with him, and he says, "You're asking for more food, you're greedy," and he really shouts at him and scolds him and makes him look like a little villain. Okay, for what? For asking for more food. Poor malnourished kid. Now coming to the farmers. These farmers, many of the farmers whom I have met, have not been paid in full. Some have not been paid at all. Some have been paid partially. Okay, and if you want to verify, yes, I would invite anyone who has concerns of authenticity to come forward, join me, meet these people, look at their papers, verify, and take a view. Okay, take a view of it. I am not saying these guys are the most honest people on earth. Everybody can be honest or dishonest. But if you are saying that these farmers are dishonest and somehow Lodha is automatically honest, okay, he's just automatically honest, I think that is a very dicey kind of an intellectual position to take, and it smells of intellectual dishonesty. Now, I am not saying Lodha is automatically dishonest. I am saying there are a huge number of people, not one or two, but good numbers of people who are alleging financial dishonesty by Lodha. Whether he is honest or dishonest, let's put that aside for the moment, but let's understand this from one perspective. The character of Lodha's activities is intensely public. It touches upon the lives of large numbers of people. And therefore, because it is so public and touches upon the lives of so many people, I mean farmers on the one end, workers in between, and home buyers at the other end. Okay, and large amounts of interaction with government are a necessary part of whatever Lodha is doing. Now, given that it has such a public character, the very least that Lodha can expect, or anyone in Lodha's position can expect, is public criticism. You do not step into a public space and expect to get away without being criticized, without attracting criticism. Now, you can always argue that it is unfair criticism or fair criticism. That's a matter of opinion. But to say that I cannot be criticized, you have stepped into a public domain, Mr. Lodha. You shall be criticized. If I step into a public domain, I expect to be criticized. Okay, right now I am in the public domain too. So someone's going to call me a blackmailer and extortionist. Someone's going to say that I am a fool. Someone's going to say that I am a poser. That's part of my domain. That's part of what I do. Right? I have to accept that criticism. If I am so thin-skinned about it, and someone might make personal comments about me, they might not like my face, they may not like my way of talking. Someone's going to make personal comments about me. Now, I can't be thin-skinned about that. I can't be thin-skinned about that. If I'm thin-skinned, then I shouldn't step into the public domain. You know, there's this saying, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Get out of the kitchen. So, this holds true for Mr. Lodha. This holds true for the Lodha developers, the whole bunch of Lodhas that are out there. The whole bunch of Lodha entities and Lodha family members. If you cannot stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you cannot stand to be criticized, then what are you doing in a public space? Why are you out there in the public space? Why are you out there doing things which govern the lives of the public, which influence, not just influence, which govern, which shape the lives of the public? If that is your chosen sphere of activity, then expect criticism and accept criticism and deal with it intellectually. I have said this before and I am saying it again to Lodha and all of Lodha's well-wishers. I welcome debate. I welcome intellectual engagement. If what you have to say has merit, then it will stand public scrutiny. Let's meet on a public platform. Let's have a televised debate. Let's have a panel discussion. Let's have a series of debates before various kinds of audiences. Let us understand. Let us understand what it is that you have done and you are doing, and what it is that I am done and I have done and I am doing. Right? If I am doing something wrong, then shame me. That's the way to deal with it in an intellectual way. When you choose to silence debate by claiming to be defamed, by saying this is defamation and going to court and wanting to attach my property and all that kind of thing, that's not very fair. That's not a fair way of dealing for someone who is in public life. Okay? So, you are going to be criticized. Deal with it. Let's have a debate. Let's talk with information. Let us ask the right questions. We'll give you a chance. You give me a chance to say what I'm saying. I'll give you a chance to say what you're saying. Let us see where that goes. Let the public decide. The public is not a fool. The public doesn't need to be protected from opinions like my opinion. So, yeah, let's engage. I'm saying this to Lodha and all his supporters. Let's intellectually engage. Good night.